Right, we're now joined via Zoom by Gugu Xaba from Save the Children South Africa to weigh in on some of the important matters affecting children and young people in South Africa following the recent tavern tragedy in the Eastern Cape, and also on the issue of teenage pregnancies as one of the major contributing factors to teenagers dropping out of schools. A very good afternoon to you, Gugu. Thanks so much for joining us here on SABC News, ma'am.
Good afternoon, SABC News, and good afternoon, South Africa.
Well, a lot has been said about the tragedy, of course, in the Eastern Cape at the Enyobeni tavern and, factors around it. What are your views as Save Our Children to this ongoing tragedy and debate that's been taking place?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. Save the Children's view on this matter is that we've been talking about South Africa tolerating abuse or tolerating incorrect behavior. And it needed to lead to this tragedy such that South Africa is kind of willing to listen. So Save the Children is completely unhappy and would like to urge maybe the leadership in South Africa to understand that each time we spoke about the fact that there is substance abuse that is destroying the lives of children, including the adults that are abusing the alcohol, we need to change the way we respond to it. Same thing with the fact that taverns are allowed to take children in that are below age. It says our law is not taking control and it's exposing children to behaviors that can even lead to death. Yeah. So yes, the situation has happened and it's very sad, but maybe it is time authorities in country take control and we bring the people that are supposed to be brought to book to respond for and take responsibility for what has happened.
And I mean, when we're talking about taking responsibility, who in particular are we talking about? We mentioned the authorities, but as you look at commentary about this incident, there've been many who are blaming the parents, asking questions like, how do you not see that your 12, 13-year-old child is not in the house at midnight? There's of course, appropriately so, a blame that's been put on the tavern owner himself and those responsible or should be indeed the gatekeepers of this tavern where children shouldn't be allowed in the first place. And I mean, I hear you talking about authorities and some talking about society in general, and maybe that's where we can talk about the role that society should play. But still, to my main question, who do we attribute that sort of blame to about this particular incident that's now taken place?
Okay, thank you for that. When we talk about children and their rights and their wellness, we are referring to the child themselves, we're referring to the parent or any responsible adults that is around the child, including other community leadership. So it means when we say South Africa needs to take responsibility and not accept the abuse that we are seeing happening around, we are talking to all three. And yes, parents have a fuller responsibility because they are the ones that are supposed to ensure that the child is in the right environment at the right time. And so it means they become the primary respondent in terms of why the children were not where they were supposed to be.
Yeah, there's also a lot of talk around, and rightly so, the issue of alcohol and alcohol abuse. And, some say that some of these children have learned from the home that they should abuse alcohol. But, I'd like to interject when it comes to that particular debate. There are some parents who don't drink and are in fact very strict about the issue of alcohol. But when their children go out, they seem to abuse alcohol even more than children who perhaps do have alcohol in the household. So where should we in fact be looking at this issue of alcohol? Because I don't know if a total ban is necessarily the way to go, because as we know, teenagers are rebellious, and as soon as you decide to completely ban something, that's the more that one would want of it. So where do we start when we start to address the issue of alcohol and alcohol abuse?
Thank you for that question. We strongly believe as Save the Children that we need to start the conversation with the child themselves and the parents, and maybe the school environment that the child is in and the community that is around. Because the rate at which alcohol is being used in our communities is actually sending a message that it's the best thing that you can do when you have time to spare. So the conversation needs to be with children and their parents, including leadership in our communities. There should be a specific time where we open and close bars. There should be a responsibility of the parents to say, can this child be out there at this time, and why are we allowing it? And then parents need to also be told more on the need for them to take responsibility when such things happen. Because now they want the law to kick in, and yet when we want the law to kick in, for an example, in terms of teenage pregnancy, when a 10-year-old child is pregnant, it is sexual abuse, and then the perpetrator must be brought to book, and then the parents do not want to go to the police station. That actually says we are condoning what has happened. So parents need to take more responsibility and start enforcing the control that should be enforced in relation with the children that they are raising. Thank you.
And in fact, I wanted to go to the issue of a teenage pregnancy, which is, of course, another important matter that's been brought into the spotlight. The Minister of Basic Education raising something quite alarming, writing to Parliament saying that over 90,000 girls of school-going age, and we're talking between the ages of 10 and 19 years old, giving birth between April last year and March this year, barely a year. These are very alarming stats. And what do we say to this? And I mean, I keep saying this, that, you know, when we're talking about a 10, 11, 12-year-old getting pregnant, we're now talking about abuse. We're talking about sexual abuse. And one wonders why, you know, we're not doing enough to make sure that we don't have this. Are these people not being put behind bars? What is the biggest issue here?
Sorry about that. Sure. Yes, teenage pregnancy in the past 2 years has grown to alarming numbers. And what we are saying about it again goes back to the same thing of substance abuse that we have seen. What are the parents educating children about their sexuality? Do parents get involved in educating children so that they understand what's the value of the body and how they should take care of the body? And after that, do parents create an environment for a child to interact with them about sexuality? Again, after that, the adults that we have that are around children, that are able to rape a child or to touch a child in an inappropriate manner, what is it that we are doing about it? Because if we're not making people to take responsibility for the wrong that they have done, they continue doing it. But again, how much education do we give to children so that they can be able to take care of their own bodies and not be exposed to unplanned pregnancies? And how are we supporting them? Because one other thing that happens, children do experience peer pressure in terms of going into sex early. And are we able to arm them with a response that they need to give when they are under pressure? For an example, some girls go through that pressure, but also boys go through the same pressure. So how much are we teaching each of these? And what conversations are we having in the churches where we've got so many children going in with families? Does the faith-based organizations help us in educating children, or any other platforms? For instance, the health system is also involved in educating, in having youth-friendly services. What is it that we are sharing with these children so that they can be able to take care of themselves and we can reduce the teenage pregnancy that we are seeing? So a lot of efforts I know are being put in place, but I know there is a lack in parental involvement for us to be able to manage teenage pregnancy accordingly.
All right. Thank you so very much for giving us your time. That's Gugu Xaba from Save the Children South Africa, weighing in on those important issues today then, as we're talking about the tavern tragedy in the Eastern Cape, but also the alarming rate at which teenage girls are indeed getting pregnant.